Hi everyone, I'm Noelle and this is Influence Colorist. Time for another completed pages video. So I was pretty ambitious this month. I had 14 books on my list to complete and well, I got 12 of the 14 done, so not too bad. My goal for my books was something old and something new. So I needed to color in an older book before I could color in one of my new books, which worked well, although some pages I felt pressure to just kind of finish it and not really enjoy the process or really prepare my pages like I probably should have. So it's not something I'll do all the time, but it was definitely nice to get pages done and work in these older books that I've neglected. All right, so let me fix this and I'll show you my pages. Okay, so starting off with the old book, this is Yippie Kawaii, Mandala Magic Volume 1 by Dani Banani of Funusual Suspects. And I think the last time I colored in this, let's see, was in January of 2021. So it's been a while since I've worked in this book. All right, so the page I chose for this month is called Forest Friends, and just look how cute these characters are. I always have such a good time coloring in this book because the characters are just so cute. All right, so the color palette comes from the book that I worked in next, and I figured I just have all those materials out, so I'll just use the same colors. So yeah, I think it works because you have like a little red squirrel, pink for the deer, and then some browns for the bear. Some of the other things, like a bat, could have been darker, but I was just trying to stick with those colors. But I think it all works. It's all very cute, bright, and works well with kind of that woodland theme going on. So, yeah, there's that one. All right, so my new book is Mandalen by Maria Trolle. And yeah, I tend to stick with, or I'm trying to stick with a color palette, the same color palette for each page. Obviously, different combinations and not using every single color in the color palette on one page. But yeah, so like this top half I got from the cover here, and then the rest of them I got from, she's done a children's book with some of the same illustrations of the pictures in here. So I just pulled colors from that, and that's more of a range of greens, and then you have some oranges and purples in there. So it gives me a lot more variety to choose from for the pages. Okay, so I worked on this page here. The squirrel, the idea came from one of her illustrations, a red squirrel, and I really love this purple sky that I did in another page. Let's see if I can find it. Of course, can't find it quickly. Oh, here, this one. So it goes like peach to purple, and I really loved that look. But I wanted more of like a later nighttime sky. So I just have a little hint of some peaches down here. So mostly purple. And then the mushroom, it took me a while to decide. This was like the last thing I colored because I wasn't sure what color I wanted to use in the color scheme. So I chose more of these kind of periwinkle colors, which I think gives it a nice kind of soft nighttime glow. But yeah, so this is all color pencil. I use a mix of polychromos, there's Prismacolors, and some Black Widows. A lot of burnishing in this area to make it pretty smooth and take away all those pencil lines in there. But overall, I'm really happy with it. It's a lot brighter, kind of more bold than some of the other ones. But that's okay. I think it all works well together. Okay, there is that one. And I'm just putting like a sheet of paper on here just because of all that purple. I'm worried it might get on that page. So, all right, so there's that. All right, next old book is Animorphia by Kerby Rosanes. And this was part of one of my Color This with This videos, which I used Crayola markers. So it is the toucan page. I love it because it's just so bright and vibrant. And yeah, it was all done with Crayola markers, these broad tip markers. And yeah, I got a lot of good feedback from this one, which was really awesome. So thank you everyone who liked and commented on the page. I used a combination of just straight coloring with the markers. I showed how I kind of go over one color like a yellow and then a pink over on top to kind of get a different shade of orange. And then also how to do some watercoloring techniques with Crayola markers. So they are water-based markers. So getting this kind of not as vibrant, but still bright colors, but just some variation of the colors using a water brush. Yeah, okay, so the big question on the comments was, how was the bleed through? Did it bleed through very much? So let me show you that now. I'll show you on both pages. Now this page, these pages were done beforehand. I think it was Distress ink. Yeah, so, but you might be able to pick it up. There is a little bleed through and there is a little spot there and maybe a little spot there. And if I kind of figure out where that was, it is mainly because I went over this area with water. So this was straight coloring and then I went over and did some shading with the water brush. So if things aren't dry or it gets too saturated, that's when it's going to bleed through. But it's really, it's really not that bad. If I didn't have so much white on this page, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily the markers themselves. It was more or less the water technique. All right, and then on this page, I haven't even worked on this page yet. So once I get this colored, you won't even be able to tell if there was any bleed through. But yeah, so you can see just a very faint pickup of that bleed through. Again, it is all because of that water. So, you know, I may have used too much water. I may not have let things dry and then went over it with more water. But yeah, so just a little bit. But again, if it's a page that you've already colored, you probably won't even be able to tell. Or if you're going to be coloring over it, it really wasn't bad. So pretty impressive. All right, so that was Animorphia. And my new book from Nice Little Town 4. And I was really excited to work in this book. I had seen some pages done by Elm Colors, and her pages were just so cute. And so I like the fact that I can use alcohol markers on here because it does have like this black background. All right, so here's the page that I did. And to be honest, I'm not real happy with it. I think when I was looking for a page to color, I saw the berries up there and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do a berry color theme. So some reds, some purples, some blues, and then so picking colors to try to complement that, I picked kind of a peachy pink and then some greens here. And I started with the house and the first color I picked, I immediately knew this wasn't working out. You know how you just get that feeling as soon as you start coloring. I used alcohol markers, and for one, it is a little different working on these black backgrounds because when you first do your color, especially with really light colors, it picks up that black and it changes the color. But once it dries, it's totally fine. It goes back to the color It's just because that marker is wet, and so it kind of shows through that black. So that wasn't necessarily the problem because I had picked the color, and once it dried, it was fine. But I think just all together, I don't know. I wasn't really happy with this color, like I said before, and I thought I can change it with color pencils, but I didn't want to like drastically change it. But yeah, even with the color pencil shading, I'm still not happy. I think this green doesn't work well either. I actually really like the way the hat turned out, and the berries, the lighting effect I think is all pretty. But yeah, it was just kind of one of those things where I started it and I immediately like regretted my decision, and then it became I just wanted to hurry and get it done. So anyway, cute page, cute illustration. I'm just not thrilled with the color palette. All right, so that is Nice Little Town 4 by Tanya, Bogema, Stolova. All right, old book is The Ink House by Rory Dobner. And this book I first saw on Zucchini Kitty's channel, so Karen, and her using distress inks. And I was just, being from like the scrapbooking stamper world, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about using my, you know, stamping inks in coloring books. So yeah, huge shout out to her and her techniques with that. So I looked up her video on this page because I think she pretty much has a video on every page in this book. And I took some inspiration from hers. I think she has like a red curtain here. Although I had gotten all my distress inks out, when I watched her video, it looked like she did more watercoloring techniques. I can't remember if it was more distress inks or what she was using, but it wasn't as much distress ink as in some of her other ones. But I still used it. I used it for the chair, for the curtain, and then in some of these tighter areas it was a little bit harder to get some of the little sponge applicator in there. So that's the thing, I used part sponge applicator on some of these to apply the ink, and then also did some watercoloring technique where I basically pushed down on here, let me show you. Let me get an ink out. All right, I'll show you on a darker color. So I don't know how, you know, all the ink pads are made now. These were, or these are close to my heart ink pads. And so the ink pad kind of goes like this. So if you push down on here, it will apply ink to the lid. And then you can use a water brush and pick that up and use that. So it's a very faint color, but yeah, it still works as like a watercolor technique. So I did that in some of these little areas, even like in the tree where I didn't want it like super bright and vibrant, just a little bit of distress there. I also used some glitter gel pens. You can see that in the little fringe here in the parrot's wings. Oh, and then his ring. And then in the guitar. So yeah, the color palette, I picked this book because the new book I'll show you here in a minute, I knew I wanted to do like a Mardi Gras New Orleans theme. So I just kept that theme going. When I saw this page, it just, well, I think it's the wallpaper, like the ornate wallpaper, this kind of fringed lamp, the guitar, like it just, I was thinking New Orleans when I saw this page. So it was perfect to tie into my next book, which will be Mardi Gras themed. But yeah, I think it turned out good. It was one of those that, again, I wasn't feeling it at first, but then I think it was probably after I got like the gel pens on and did a little bit more shading, that I really liked the page. So yeah, I did go over and with color pencils and do some more like darker shading in some of these little creases here. All right. So the new book is Tales from the Midnight Masquerade. This book is by Hanna Karlzon. And yeah, so the themes in this book just remind me of Mardi Gras and like circus, that kind of stuff. So I picked a page and I will put my inspiration. So this was part of another video, which is Finding Inspiration Friday. So I'll put my inspiration picture on here. And it is a poster by Andrea Misretta, I believe. Let me look up her name real quick. Yeah, Andrea Misretta. And yeah, Mardi Gras colors are green, purple, and gold. So those were my most of my colors here. And then as you can see in the poster, there's like this kind of dark red background, which I really liked. And you have elements of a black and white checkerboard, which I used for the very background. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep this, or I kind of showed on my video that maybe I could, with marker, go around the edges and it would just leave a little bit of this black and white checkerboard. I wasn't sure if it was just too much, how it looked visually. So obviously I was just playing around with a piece of paper to see if I would want to add like a black border around. And then if I did want it, then I can go in with a black marker and fill those spaces in. But everyone online, when you commented, you said that you liked it the way it was. So I decided to keep it. And I used a lot of glitter and shimmery accents on here, of course, with being Mardi Gras. So I used a gold metallic watercolor and that gives it that just kind of shimmer look. And then I used gold stickles for that chunkier gold. So in some of these areas here. And then gel pens. So I have a purple glitter gel pen. And let's see, I think a green in here and around her eyes. But yeah, I really like her makeup. I think all the colors work really good together. When I was editing my video, I did not like her cheek. It did not look balanced to me. And even still, as I'm looking at it, I think I could probably work on it a little bit more, but I think I'm just going to be okay with it. I did use my electric eraser and just kind of carve a little bit more contour right there. It was too angled. It looked like a big triangle right there, where this one I felt like had a good kind of shape to it. So yeah, I worked on that just a little bit, but I'm kind of scared to do more, so I'm probably just gonna to live with it. But yeah, I did a base of water-based markers, so like your Tombows, that kind of marker, and then went over with color pencil shading. All right, and the face was just color pencils. So kept it white. I may have gone over it with white. It may just be the color of the page there. But yeah, I think it looks really good when you open up the book. It's just like, wow, it's just so vibrant, so pretty, so exactly how I wanted it. All right, next book, old friend here. This is Johanna Basford's Ivy and the Inky Butterfly. So I'm coloring this book in order. So the next page up that I had to color was this one. We have Ivy and a little mouse kind of sailing up to this tree house. And I was really kind of dreading this page. I think all the leaves I was just not in the mood to do all the leaves. So I made it really simple on myself and just chose like 3 colors for these green leaves, and then I have these darker teal leaves up here. But I just stuck with those colors and didn't do anything crazy, just very simple shading. But yeah, once I kind of got my color concept in my head, then I started having fun with the page. So I was thinking I wanted this kind of to be a later sunset. So not just starting to set, but starting to kind of go dark. So like this page, I feel like it's later in the afternoon. And then as the story progresses, then we're getting a little bit later. So not obviously completely dark, but kind of just a later sunset. And I didn't want a bright, vibrant sunset. I felt like since we were in like this big tree that we should have more of a dusky, like mauve-y color sunset. So that's kind of what I was going for. So the background is done with pan pastels. And this is kind of a, I think it's called a dark magenta maybe, but it's like a magenta purple color. And then fading into yellow. The tree, that was the first thing I did. I really wanted a purple tree. And I, not really thinking about the sky too much when I did it, but yeah, so the sky kind of blends into this purple, purple tree, but that's okay because it does talk about how the tree kind of goes up into the clouds. So that's what's happening there. And I kept the treehouse pretty light in colors, just highlighting a few things. So it definitely helps to read the description. Not that you have to do everything how she visualized and describes in her book, but to me it's a story, so in my mind it should kind of match what the words say. So like I had colored it and then not realized that she described this little cage object as like rusty metal. So I think I had it, I may have had it pink. So I erased it and then put it in these blue tones to kind of match some of these other metal pieces. But then, it kind of is nice to have these like pinks showing through, like it's rusty. So that was a happy little accident there. Also my phone, I originally colored it red and then it just blended in too much with the tree. Again, I didn't for some reason read the passage before I started, and I was like, what's this little phone here for when I was coloring? I thought maybe it was like a hidden object or something, but then when I read it, I was like, oh, so when they get to the treehouse, they call the phone, and then the little cage drops down, and that's how they get into the treehouse. So anyway, I ended up erasing the red phone and coloring it blue just to make it stand out. So the leaves, I colored these upper leaves more of a teal color because I thought it helped balance with the water down here below. Yeah, I don't have a lot of colors. I kept a pretty simple color scheme, so I think it all works really well. The boat and the sails, I just did from this page. So use the same color combination. I like these tones for wood. It's not like this really dark like wood color that you would expect, but kind of these peaches and purples I think work really well together. And oh, my butterfly, I been coloring my butterfly in like a monarch color pattern, so that has stayed constant throughout the book. The only thing I haven't colored is, you can probably see, is Ivy. And I haven't colored Ivy in all my pages. I have not decided on her color scheme yet, so I go back and forth. Do I want her blonde? Do I want her to have brown hair? So I decided I'm just going to wait till I finish the book, and then I will go back and color her all the same colors once I figure that out. So anyway, I was dreading this page, but again, like I said, after I kind of got my concept of what I wanted it to be, I had a lot of fun putting it together. All right, so a new book, making it an easy transition, is Johanna Basford's Worlds of Wonder. And I wanted to use that same sky color, so flipping through here, I thought this would be a good page to do that. So yeah, I used the pan pastel for the background and then erased around the stars and added some acrylic paint pen. Some of it could be Posca, and then I have some other ones too that are yellow. The balloons I wanted more of like a vintage look, so more muted tones in there, and then just a simple house coloring. Clouds, there is some color, I'm not sure if it's picking it up. I used a light blue pan pastel, and just kind of went over like in a bumpy kind of circular motion. And there is a little bit of yellow in there, and I think I just did like color pencils. All right, so there's that one. Okay, next old book is Exploratorium by Melendres. And just a heads up, if you are looking for this book, I think it's called Fright and Seek now. It's under a different name. So hopefully you can find it under the illustrator's name, but yeah, either Exploratorium or you might want to try Fright and Seek. So these pages are a lot of fun, and the concept I do for this book I got from another YouTuber, Erin K Designs, and her concept was basically, here, and I copied one of her pages, so I'll start with that. So this is, yeah, same color scheme as hers. So basically, you pick a color palette for each page, but one of those colors is designated for the little alien creatures. And I liked this concept because there is so much going on in these pages that if you keep one thing constant, then hopefully it can be a little bit more cohesive, easier to look at and find things. So my color palette came from looking up different pictures from like vintage Disney Tomorrowland or like Space Mountain posters. Also like vintage space themed posters and like sci-fi pictures. So yeah, I really liked this kind of chartreuse green and the red sky. And then I decided to make all the little characters blue. So I just pick the lightest shade. So if I'm picking blue, I found a really light blue marker, and these are water-based markers, and just colored all of them blue and then went over with color pencil to shade. Very simple shading. Like I said, there's a lot of creatures. Some of them are pretty small. I don't really pay attention to the ones that you're trying to find. Some of them are like you only see maybe like a little tiny portion of them. So I don't fuss with that. I just color them all. But yeah, so the chartreuse I did for most of the buildings, and then this color green for part of the buildings also. And just added some purple, a little bit of purple here and there, and then included the red, obviously, from the sky into there. It was kind of hard to decide what I wanted to do for my little vehicles that some of these guys are in. So I kept them mostly like white and gray with a little accents of the red. I used acrylic paint pens for the flames. So just using color pencils inside and then kind of outline that flame in the acrylic paint pens. Yeah, and this was all done. I used a Crayola marker for most of it, and then used the color pencil on it also, and then to kind of fade it out around the edges. But the majority of that red is marker. Oh, I like the little lights up here. I just used an electric eraser and erased part of that and then outlined it in like a Posca. All right, so yeah, fun book, and I really like that concept. Okay, so new book, I chose Reptiloids, and this is by Vasyl. I'm not sure if that's Saiko, but there it is. And again, I think I had seen this book on Elm Colors and a couple other different ones that they do like color palettes. Like someone in their group chooses a color palette and then they all, I don't know if they pick different pages or the same page and use that color palette. So I used the same color palette as I did in the last book I showed you. So kind of that chartreuse color. Although because these are one-sided, I did use alcohol markers as my base instead of the water-based markers. And then yeah, just shaded with color pencils. So nothing crazy. These are really fun, kind of cute characters too. All right. All right, down to my last two. Old book is Desert Wonderland. I've kind of made it a goal to color more in this book this year. This is by Reinhert, and she has some other botanical books that are just very unique. I love her pictures. Anyway, I chose this one, and this is all color pencils. I used Luminance and Prismacolors. There might, I think that's it. And I did use some metallic watercolor for these little ribbons here. Tried to pick like a coppery color. Looks more gold on film. But yeah, I didn't really have a color palette. I kind of just picked colors that I liked. I would say I referenced maybe some cactus to see some of the coloring. Like this one was kind of like a lighter green with some shades of purple in it. I really liked these colors. It's like I think it was black cherry from Prismacolor, and then black over the top because I wanted like a really deep purple. And then just outlined some of that in the white Posca. But yeah, I just picked really fun colors I thought would work well together, and I just kind of try to balance them around. So some of these greens here, and then oranges around on the edges, pink flowers, and the teal. All right, new book is called Fairy Shampoo. Enchanted coloring book. Let's see, is there a name on here? Waves of color. All right, that's all I see from the name. And I saw this book on A Cluttered Life, and I just love her pages, but I just felt like this was a really unique book. Like the title of it is kind of cool. All the patterns in here are just really cool. So I did, it's actually the cover page here, and I used water-based markers. So yeah, super bright, kind of like hippie vibes I'm getting from the colors. But yeah, so I started my flowers in a really pale yellow, and then I did all the little dots in these bright, pinks and oranges. And then I did these flowers in like a darker yellow. And then I did all the hair. And it just was, I felt like it was missing something. So I was looking at this one to see how they did it, and noticed like their flowers were in like darker shades. So I went over with the same color palette that I was using and went over that lighter yellow with the darker colors. And I definitely think that helped. I kept these the same to kind of break up some of that dark So I was kind of doing a hot cold look, so warm colors, hot colors, and then the hair being the cooler shades. Really the only shading I did was her face, and I just was using these markers, the Ohuhu markers, and they're water-based. But yeah, they have a lot of like pastel shades, so good for skin shading. Yeah, just a lot of fun doing the little circles. Don't have to worry about shading and things like that. So, all right, so that is it for my completed pages. I do have two new books that I got this month. I can show you real quick. I actually ordered a while ago, maybe 2 months, maybe just a month ago. But the seller that I ordered from was always really cool about updating me on the status of the books. So I felt really, good about ordering from them. But I finally broke down and got Serene. I've been looking at this book for a long time and finally decided to go ahead and get it. So excited to work in this one. It is kind of a massive book here, but yeah, beautiful images, great paper. And then my next one is this one. Since I like to copy, I thought this would be good because I have all these illustrations to look at, and then obviously you don't have to copy the images, but since I like to challenge myself to make it look just like the picture, I thought this would be a fun one for me. So I bought it from the same seller. The books themselves weren't too expensive. It was just the shipping that was bad. So if you can kind of combine that and not have to pay $30, $40 on shipping, for one book, then I recommend doing that. So anyway, that is it for my video. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you next month.